What's up guys? So I recently picked up one of the most fun toys you can possibly buy right now. Yeah, no, that's not it. Alright guys, so welcome to my 2017 WRX STi. Now this vehicle is actually a base model STi with the upgrade package. The upgrade package in this one actually gives you the Harman Kardon sound system, which is 440 watts. It also gives you the navigation, which is okay. I use Waze most of the time on my phone, but it's nice to have it there anyways. And you also get the push button start and smart entry system. And then also some safety features like a backup camera and cross traffic alert and all those other things. So that's all nice. This particular example also came with the upgraded Sports STi exhaust. And the short throw shifter on it. So those are things that I wanted, and they actually found me one that had those things already in it, so that worked out really well for me. So why an STi? Why did you get this car? And well, it's really simple. Number one, it's a really cool car, right? But I had some basic requirements when I was selecting my next vehicle to replace the Mercedes that I had before. Number one on that list, like literally top of that list, was that the vehicle had to be an event. And what I mean by that is that when you walk up to it, when you're about to drive it, you get excited. You have to really want to do it. I don't drive my cars all the time. For the most part, this car sits in the parking lot at the airport in Atlanta because I fly for work, I travel for work a lot, so it's just sitting there. But when I do get to use it on the weekends, I want to actually enjoy it, so it had to be an event. Now, I can't go buy a McLaren or something crazy with the doors and all that. That would be a really cool event. But I needed something that was fun and exciting, and this car is definitely an event. It's ridiculous. I mean, the wing is out of control, the sound is crazy, the power, all that stuff is all there, so definitely qualifies as an event. Number two, yeah, it had to be fast. I like my cars to be fast. I enjoy a fast vehicle. I don't drive like a crazy person, but if I want to go fast, I want to be able to do so. And so this car's got 305 horsepower. It's all-wheel drive. Again, manual transmission. It's obviously it's a fast car. It's pretty cool, so covers that, no problem. It also had to be fun to drive. So fun, obviously, you want to enjoy your vehicle. I like sporty cars. I can never drive a truck or an SUV. It's just not for me. So I like sporty vehicles, and I enjoy the actual act of driving, which is weird, I know, because I'm a big fan of Tesla and autopilot and all those things, but everything has its moment. So when I'm commuting from the Atlanta airport to my house, I don't want to drive. That's not fun. Sitting in traffic for an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, I don't want to partake in that. I want to just sit back and let the car do its thing, and that's perfectly okay with me. But if I find a nice, fun, twisty road, or getting on and off the exit and things like that, I want to enjoy that. I want to have a car that can handle that, no problem. Again, STi kills it with that. And then last but not least, really, it had to be fairly practical. This isn't super important for me, whatever. But, I mean, obviously the STi's got 4 doors, it's got a trunk. Lauren can get in the car, and I can also have room for the dog and things and whatever, and other people if we ever do carry other people, which happens very rarely. But there's room for all that, so that's kind of important, I guess. But it wasn't a big deal. But this car definitely covers that. It is a fairly practical car. Again, with the 4 doors and all that, it's just a really obnoxious practical car. Alright, so how can I afford a $40,000 vehicle? Now that one's actually pretty easy. You see, I don't buy my cars, I don't finance them, I actually lease my vehicles. And if you know what you're doing, most people that lease a vehicle end up leasing most of their cars in the future. So let's talk about why I like leasing my vehicles versus financing my vehicles. Alright, so the obvious number one reason is that you can get a lot more vehicle for a much lower monthly payment. Let's use this STi for an example. This is a car that, again, is $40,440 MSRP. My payment on this car, even though I live in Georgia, a state where if you lease a vehicle, you pay tax on the entire car. That's not normal. Most states, when you lease a vehicle, you only pay the sales tax on your monthly payment. So even here, my payment is only $435. Now, I put a total of $1,500 out of pocket. That was it, to cover fees and other things like that when I first picked up the vehicle, and that's it. So again, a $40,000 car, $435 per month. Had I financed this vehicle for, let's say, 60 months with a great interest rate of 1.9% on that, with the same $1,500 down, my payment would be over $670 a month in this car. That's crazy. Even if it was 0% with some sort of crazy special on a car like this, which pretty much never happens, the payment will still be over $640. That's a lot of money. So $435 versus over $600 a month. Now again, on that finance vehicle, if I decide 3 or 4 years into it that I want to change it and get something else, there's a very good chance that I'm going to have negative equity on my car, that I'll be upside down. That basically means that you owe more to the bank on the vehicle than what the vehicle is worth. If you trade it in, and you can probably trade it in, you're going to have to carry that negative equity into your next loan or pay for it out of pocket. When you lease a vehicle, you don't have to deal with that. Now, some of the limitations you have with leasing a vehicle, they're not really limitations. You, again, have to know what you're doing right when you go into it. Is the mileage. And that's the one thing that scares a lot of people. So when I lease this particular vehicle, I have a total of 36,000 miles that I can use over the course of 3 years. It doesn't really matter how or when you add those miles to it, as long as you return it with around 36,000 miles when your lease is up. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't go over. I can. And if I happen to go over, let's say I put 40,000 miles on the car over the course of 3 years instead of 36,000, that would cost me a whole 15 cents per additional mile, or basically $600. Ooh, I don't know what I would do with that. That's definitely less than the negative equity I'd have if I were to trade out of a vehicle that I financed for 5 years after just 3 years. So that's a great advantage right there. And you're not really limited to just 36,000 miles when you do a lease. You can buy more miles right when you lease a vehicle if you know that you're going to need them. For example, again, the last vehicle that I had, the Mercedes that I shot the videos in before, that car actually had 20,000 miles a year, because when I got that vehicle, I was driving a lot more for work. So I knew that, so I bought a whole bunch more miles ahead of time, so I wouldn't have to deal with paying for extra miles before. And with most banks too, when you buy the miles ahead of time, they're cheaper than if you pay for them after. Now, Subaru is not one of those banks. If you pay for it now, it's 15 cents. If you pay for it after, it's 15 cents. But that number can range significantly. There are banks that would charge you 15 cents if you buy the miles ahead of time, but if you go over the miles, then they'll charge you like 25 or even 30 cents per mile at that point. So obviously you want to make sure that you get around the mileage that you would normally use in the course of the 3 years or 4 years that you lease your vehicle for, and give yourself a little bit of a cushion on that. So if I know I'm going to use about 10,000 a year, I'm comfortable with 12,000. I'm not going to go anywhere near that, but that way I don't have to think about it. If I want to go on a trip, I get in my car and go. I never have to think of, oh, I'm getting close to my mileage. This is something that crosses my mind because I got the mileage that actually makes sense. And that's the biggest error that people make when they lease a vehicle. They just don't think of that. And they also, a lot of people think that they drive a lot more than they really do. So just take a look at your vehicle that you have now and how many miles you've driven on average in the past 3 or 4 years, and that will tell you about what you really should be buying for miles and the vehicle that you pick up next. Now, another great advantage when you lease a vehicle is that you have options. You see, when the lease is up, so let's say 3 years from now on this particular vehicle, I can do one of three things. I can trade the vehicle in the rare case that the vehicle is actually worth more than what I would owe the bank at that point. It happens sometimes with like special edition vehicles or limited production cars or whatever. So if that happens, you do have that option. You can also buy the vehicle, so you can just pay the rest of the money that you would owe the bank, the full balance on it, and keep it. If you want to do that, perfectly fine to do so. But I will tell you, if you know that you're going to do that from the beginning, just buy it. There's no real sense of leasing a vehicle for 3 years and then financing the balance 3 years later for like 5. Now you're paying for a car for 8 years. That's kind of ridiculous. But you can if you want to, but if you're going to do that anyways, just buy it right off the bat and not deal with the whole leasing and then buying it after. But again, the option is there. And the third option, which is the one that I use all the time and most people do, which is my favorite, is that you get to just return the vehicle. I can walk into the Subaru dealership, hand them the keys, hand them the car. I'll pay a total of $300 disposition fee. That's the fee to return the car. Don't ask me, I don't know what, it's stupid, but it's there. It's only $300, not a big deal. And I can just walk away. I can lease another vehicle from them. And most banks, most brands, if you lease another vehicle from them, they'll actually waive that fee. So that's kind of like their hook to keep you in the family. So that's one thing. Or you can just literally pay that $300 and walk away and go to any other brand or any other vehicle that you want to and start all over without having to worry about selling the vehicle or trading it in or negative equity or any of those things. So there's a lot of great advantages to leasing the vehicle, and that's how I can afford a $40,000 car. Now, there's no way that I'm going to pay 40 grand for the car. I'm not going to pay sticker for the car because there's always negotiation involved, right? So for this car, I actually only paid $37,179. That's how I got my payment to be what it is. Now, from an MSRP of $40,442 or 47, something like that, to get that low is a pretty good deal, right? I didn't have to hammer the dealership. I could have probably gone a little bit lower, but you also have to be fair. These guys do have to live, so it's not about making them make no money at all. It's just something that you have to work out a deal where it's fair to you and the dealership, obviously, so that next time you want to buy a car, they're still there. A lot of people will say, well, you're going to give me money in service. Actually, I'm not. See, all the service is included with my lease. So for the 3 years that I have this car, I'm not paying for anything else. I'm paying for my car, my insurance, that's it. All the oil changes, tire rotations, anything else the car might need for those 3 years, they're covered. So I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Again, leasing is great. And so when I go to pick up my next vehicle, I hope that I can find the same type of deal, and the servicing will be included as well, and all I'm paying for is that monthly payment. So that's how you can, and most people can, afford a much nicer car than they think. See, the other day my sister came to me and said that she wanted to get a new vehicle for my niece. And, well, they were looking for like pre-owned vehicles, you know, inexpensive, so that they could just pay for it or finance a small amount and have a low monthly payment and send her off to college in that car. So I asked her really simply, well, what is the budget that you have for that monthly payment? And she told me it was like 200 and something, like 250 bucks or under. That was her goal. I made a couple of phone calls, so I was able to get her a 2017 Toyota Corolla LE for like 220 bucks or $225 a month. And they put a whole $500 down on that. Again, that was a 3-year lease, 36,000 miles, brand new car, all service included. So nobody has to worry about, you know, is she going to break down or is the car okay or whatever it is. It's a brand new vehicle, so we don't have to think about that stuff. It's a very safe car. Corollas are great vehicles, and she's in a brand new vehicle as opposed to some old car that who knows what problems they had. So that's why I always recommend leasing to people whenever possible. Now, if you're that person that's going to buy a vehicle and keep it till the wheels fall off, then by all means, go ahead and buy the vehicle. Other people come to me, well, but I just want to write a check for it. Okay. Well, how long are you going to keep the car for? I'll keep it for like 2, 3, 4 years. Well, then that's just stupid. Honestly, it really is. You're wasting your money. Because when you write that check, the moment you drive the vehicle off the lot, we all know they depreciate significantly, right? Well, whether you financed it or leased it or paid cash for it, that's still going to happen. So if you wrote a check for the vehicle, you just gave away money the moment you drove out of the dealership with that vehicle. If you lease the car, that depreciation becomes the bank's problem, not yours. That's why I always recommend leasing a vehicle. You can get a lot more car for a lot less money. All right, guys, that was basically it. I just want to do a quick video to introduce you, number one, to my new car because I'm very excited about it. And number two, just to help you guys out in understanding leasing a vehicle and why it's great. It's not for everybody, but it definitely is for most people, so you should look into it. And yeah, that's how you can get a $40,000 vehicle for just about 400 bucks a month. See you guys in the next video. Thanks. Bye.